Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Marketing and Leadership Series with Kevin and Craig, where we add value to people's lives, happening every Thursday on ebizradio.com. You can catch the Lunchtime Series on all major podcast channels, and joining me as per usual, communications and marketing expert and co-host of our show, Craig Paisley. How are you doing, Craig?
Kevin, I'm well, thank you. Yeah, gosh, can't believe that we're definitely back in this rigorous routine, because these shows really just seem to be, flying by and stacking up. So yeah, season 2 well on the way.
Yeah, absolutely, and some exciting information and content coming out of it. I'm absolutely loving it, Craig. But I mean, it's not even part of what we're chatting about today. Like last week, this whole war in the Ukraine. I mean, like for me, like I don't want to delve on it or harp on it. I just, one of the sentiments that I have is to say that we clearly the world lacks leadership in a profound way, right? What it means, when countries are doing what they're doing, you kind of go, there's something wrong here. That's it's just shocking. It's just shocking, and you can see there's an underlying thread of something that they don't want to tell people. There's because there's not full blown war happening, but there's also. Well, and also it depends on what reports you're listening to, because but besides that, I'm struggling with it completely.
What I find incredibly fascinating and encouraging, so whilst there may be lack of leadership at a country level, there's phenomenal leadership being displayed at a brand level. Many of the organizations, brands, really popular, well-used brands, are actually the ones who have stepped forward and have made their mark. And I'm really impressed at the number of brands globally that have, with immediate effect, ceased operations and put some kind of sanctions in place, and those that have taken a slightly more tacit approach, where they're setting a deadline to withdraw from Russia and other related associated countries and things like that. So a big up to the respective brand leaders who have actually understood the impact that their brands can make on trying to bring some peace to all, whereas between a rock and a hard place of leaders of countries, gosh, I wouldn't like to be any of them, to tell the honest truth.
But I mean, it just goes to show that when big brands are doing what they're doing, it's part and parcel of knowing how to lead and how to make decisions that affect everybody, right? These countries that are doing what they're doing could definitely take a feather out of those caps and kind of go, maybe there's a complete. Maybe the way that we put societies together is completely flawed, right? Like if you look at how a leader can just do what he's doing on whatever premise the news is allowing you to see, it really it's a societal human problem. That's how we want to put leaders in place to sort of run nations. I think there's something wrong with that, right?
So that's such a good point you make, because there is definitely a shift in the potential of leadership in Europe, and the probable demise of the populist presidents is well on the way. There's some center-right organizations that are making groundswell moves, collective of parties that can stand up to these populist, egotistical leaders, and you're seeing that starting to play out in Hungary and Poland and places like that. So I really think that this in itself could actually be a trigger for a lot more of that in East and Western Europe at this particular point in time.
And because what I found fascinating, and again, I don't want to hop on it, but like even the people in Russia, like the actual Russians don't want to go to war with anybody.
Yeah.
And you're kind of going, there's massively, like, there's something that's really wrong with how the archaic way of choosing leadership in the world is still, it's still fed so wonderfully in very big nations. And I think it's a flawed system. And again, coming back to the brands that have made decisions and said, this is not something we would support. There's definitely something to learn there. I think, we should definitely, I'm going to investigate it further to kind of go like, what's the connection here? What are the dots that we can connect? Because you can see certain types of leadership from certain types of brands, but yet countries that run very big nations making really bad calls.
That's ego at play.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig, but I can get so carried away. Before we jump into today's show, give us a reminder of last week, of what we had to share last week.
Yeah, Kevin, thanks. The reminder points from our discussion last week on the resurgence in traditional brick and mortar retail and what's driving this particular move are noted as follows. So shoppers are looking for value and a memorable experience over just product experience alone. Brick and mortar is more dynamic than ever, with apps and other layers of the digital experience seen as a wonderful complementary asset to the in-store experience. Physical locations are uniquely positioned to deliver far more than online product fulfillment. Many consumers will also seek the physical experience and human connection after these prolonged periods of isolation on the back of the lockdowns. And the pandemic definitely made people appreciate public spaces more. So malls now have an opportunity to capitalize on this shift and become the new community centers. And as the pandemic underlined the need for every store to compete successfully online, we're seeing that many retailers are now adopting that first, at least the digital first approach in their physical stores and using the physical space for more exclusive offers and to complement the digital experience. But in closing on those points, Kevin, I actually learned yesterday that in the USA alone, 44% of parents are likely to return items that they've purchased online in store, as per a study by Resonate, which is an AI-powered consumer data and intelligence company. And again, as I mentioned last week, this is an absolutely perfect opportunity for retailers to really leverage those customers that are coming back into store for other reasons and lure them into making more purchases whilst they're in store.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember you also mentioning that we were going to continue with this topic today. So with all that said, what exactly are we going to share with the listeners today, Craig?
Yeah, Kevin, thanks. We're definitely going to continue with a bit of the retail theme today, but this time looking at what are the trends that are driving retail payments, and also we're going to specifically have a look at Amazon's new Just Walkout technology, how that works, and what actually this means for the future of retail. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to sharing that Just Walkout space with you because it is an incredibly interesting proposition, and I learned a lot when following up on it. But as with all of our shows, I just want to quickly set some context to the topic being discussed, and in this instance, some insights relating to the financial services sector, because obviously this is the sector within which all retail payments fall. So, Kevin, within the South African context, consumers and corporates have a choice of about, on average, 18 different payment systems, and these collectively form the national payment system. Consumers will be most familiar with the traditional methods listed as follows: cash, checks, and yes, checks still do exist in some environments. The debit cards, credit cards, prepaid cards, obviously mobile payments, for example, NFC contactless payments like Apple Pay, QR codes, for example, Zapper and SnapScan, e-wallets, which enable the peer-to-peer payments, the good old trusted EFT, electronic bank transfers, digital currencies such as crypto, really growing in popularity. And one of the newest forms of payment, which we're going to cover in the conversation later on, is BNPL, which is the buy now, pay later proposition. We're seeing huge growth in that area. According to AMPS, which is the All Medium Product Survey, the South African retail industry reached 2.028 billion in sales last year, Kevin, growing 30% over the previous year.
Wow.
Which is expected, considering coming out of the COVID lockdown. Retail sales year on year in South Africa averaged 4.04% compound annual growth for the period 2003 to 2021, and it reached an all-time high of 95.1% percentage growth in April of 2021, and a record low of 49.9% growth in April 2020. So you can see the big swing around of 140, almost 140% from going into COVID to coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, a point we covered early in season 1 of our podcast, Kevin, is that South Africa is the 41st largest market for e-commerce worldwide, with a revenue of in excess of $5 billion in 2021. The biggest players in the South African e-market is takealot.com, with a revenue of $602 million. Second is Superbalist with $85 million. And third is Woolworths with $57 million. And collectively, the top 3 stores account for 15% of all online revenue in South Africa. But what I'm pleased to see is a brand that I really, really believe in and like the experience with is Decathlon, which is Decathlon.co is now noted as the fastest growing store in South Africa, with sales of about $5.1 million in 2021, growing at 266% over the previous year. So they're in their second year of operations in South Africa. Phenomenal experience, really great retail presence here in Johannesburg.
Right, but I mean, when you see the turnaround like that, and I mean, even if with the fact that it's with the 41st largest market for e-commerce, that stat in itself shows that there's a turnaround from COVID, and I think that to me is a really good sign, right? That's like it should be a marker that people are back in business and finding new ways, and there's a whole new industry of e-commerce that's taking South Africa by storm, which is really, really cool.
Absolutely. And again, going back to last week, that is why there is this growth in retail experience, because brands have understood the dependency and experience of the digital space, and they understanding the need for people to get back out in the physical world, not just need, but a broader offering in some instances, and they brought the two together. So definitely, we're on a trajectory of growth till at least 2027. There's no doubt about that.
So I mean, it's good to be reminded about which South African brands are leading the way in retail sales.
Yeah.
Even though just online in the examples noted, but it really does highlight the reality of the number of transactions that take place each day to achieve those annual values.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Gosh, if you're looking at $602 million in 2021 for the good old takealot.com, just try and translate that in, even if it's an average of 1,000 Rand a transaction. Gosh.
With December, like, what else is there to do? You're kind of going, it's December holidays, like, okay, cool. Like, you just lie there, like, you don't want to have to go be in the shops, and you have to be part of COVID or whatever, and you're lying there in like snapping on the phone, and then you're just buying. So I mean, and Takealot must be doing incredibly well. I mean, like they must be growing at a remarkable rate as well, because it's I can remember, and that convenience factor that we've mentioned before. I mean, it speaks for itself.
So Kevin, if you look at those 3 that I mentioned, so yeah, Takealot, Superbalist, and Woolworths, that's in excess of $740 million. And on an e-commerce platform of those 3 brands, it excludes anything travel related in that entire category or segment of the market. This is purely FMCG and retail product that you use in your everyday life. Now, imagine starting to add in the value of streaming purchases, online music, tickets for travel and the likes, you'd be past the billion dollar mark. But yeah, it's great to see that there still is some value in the South African economy, and there's also quite a rapid growth in digital banking, obviously on the back of these particular propositions.
Yeah. Craig, so we always have some reference to what is happening globally. What can you share about payments in a global arena?
Yeah, Kevin, as expected, there's a huge amount to share from this particular point of view. But there were two articles that I briefly referenced, and provide some alarming statistics in answer to this particular question. So, according to Digital Payment Market Report published on businesswire.com on the 15th of February this year, we learned the following. The global digital payment market size is projected to grow from just over 68,000 million in 2020 to just over 236,000 million, and that's US dollars, by 2027, with a compound annual growth rate of about 19.4%. So as expected, a significant increase due to the growing trend in digital payments, with the proliferation of smartphones enabling much more e-commerce growth, and an increase in e-commerce sales and increase in internet penetration. The global deployment of mobile wallets is also impacting the growth of digital payments in retail, with mobile wallets being able to add money to a bank or other type of payments enabled application and spend it later, either within or outside of the merchant platform. And in closing, as a reference to that particular article, Kevin, we know that the pandemic fast-tracked the use of contactless and mobile payments. And due to the lockout and aversion to the interchange of currencies, we're seeing e-wallets are definitely gaining popularity for the likes of peer-to-peer transfers, for typical bill payments, and actually for customer-to-business payments for key services as well. So e-wallet here to stay, no doubt about that.
Wait, I just want to say, like, just thinking now with that peer-to-peer transfer, like one of the, and I don't know who out there needs to hear this, but one of the things we have a tremendous amount of car guards, where they, just standing, and I never carry any cash with me, so I never have any money. If we had some kind of peer-to-peer system in place where a car guard could just register himself, get his banking details on there, and get a barcode that you could scan or zap or whatever, you could pay people 5 Rand or whatever, 10 Rand they're looking after the car. It's again, it's just needing to be done. Someone needs to just help do it. But it could be part of this growing economy and this virtual world that we keep tapping into.
Absolutely, Kevin. No doubt about that. And yeah, irrespective of the small size of the transaction, there shouldn't be a barrier to bringing the non-banked into the financial services arena of the world. The second article that I looked at was published by Technavia, published on prnewswire.com on the 3rd of January this year. And again, both of these are really current articles. And this one tells us that the global digital payment market size is expected to increase by $85.12 billion US dollars between 2021 and 2026. And the slight difference between this article and the previous one is it states that the compound annual growth rate is actually going to decline slightly to a maximum of 17.41% during that forecast period. But the article continues with an interesting statement that says that the market is fragmented, and Kevin, the degree of fragmentation will decelerate during the forecast period, with the rising number of online transactions being instrumental in driving the growth of the market. Digital payments are quick, easy, convenient, and obviously compared to traditional methods. But over the years, the adoption of online transactions amongst consumers has increased with a rising adoption of mobile devices and wearables. The growing popularity of online payments is encouraging retailers to adopt NFC POS terminals and to facilitate mobile payments. In addition, the rising need for faster checkout, higher adoption of EMV cards, and the increasing focus on secure payments are increasing the number of online transactions globally, which is obviously driving the market growth of EMV cards.
Correct. So the EMV cards, what are these?
Okay, Kevin. These are the Europay, MasterCard, and Visa cards, both from a debit and credit card point of view. And the reason they referenced as EMV is because the three companies originally created the technical standard for smart cards and for payment terminals and automated teller machines, which obviously accepted those cards. So not only are they the most common payment method worldwide, but the debit and credit cards are also the most secure means of payments. And the primary reason for this is because each of those card payment systems must go through a card network, such as Visa, MasterCard, or the Europay, and that is for verification and acceptance. So yeah, they definitely were ahead of the pack in that regard, and obviously, leader advantage. But I do believe that the percentage ownership of the market is changing rapidly with non-traditional financial services companies coming to the fore.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to all of that, Craig, it takes us back to the beginning of this conversation where you kind of go, all the brands stepping out of Russia right now and the impact that it has on that. Like a lot of people just use a card to swipe. If banks are closing, and the SWIFT is being affected in Russia. It'd be interesting to see the effects that this would have on a country when the cutoffs are being made so drastically.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If you just consider KFC, McDonald's, Starbucks, just those three alone, there are thousands of stores alone in the USSR, or at least good old Russia, on an immediate termination of sale. That's it. I think one of those brands, and I'm not going to guess which one it was, had something like 32,000 staff. And one of those retail QSR brands is actually committed to continue paying the salaries of those staff during this particular period of uncertainty on the back of the war. But the reality is, as you say, zero transacting for those particular brands. So it would be interesting to do a study, or find a study from in a year's time that really looks at the impact and demise of transactions in that particular part of the world.
Yeah. So, Craig, so part of the conversation that I've been most curious about today is the Amazon just walk out technology. Just walk out. No, don't just walk out. What are you going to share about that topic?
Yeah. As we mentioned last week when I gave you the headline, I could see you're quite intrigued and excited about this. It's an incredible offering, Kevin, and it's covered in detail in an article I found on pocketlint.com. The article is titled "Amazon Go and Amazon Fresh: How the Just Walkout Tech Works," and was published by Maggie Tillman on March 2021. So just on a year ago, some good coverage of this. So the article opens with the following. Amazon has been opening physical Amazon Go convenience stores and Amazon Go grocery stores across the US, and has now launched a UK store branded Amazon Fresh. All have one thing in common. Unlike most shops, there are no cash registers or cashiers. You walk in, pick out what you want, and walk out. Amazon calls it a just walk out shopping experience. Yeah, Amazon's declared, or at least described the original Amazon Go store as a new kind of store with no checkout required. And obviously one of the key advantages of no checkout is you don't have to wait in a queue, Kevin. You're probably wondering how the tech works. So firstly, these stores work very much the same with the same technology found in self-driving cars, such as computer vision, sensor fusion, and deep learning. And in summary, this technology can actually detect when products are taken or returned to the shelves, and it keeps track of them in your virtual card. When you leave the store, your goods, your Amazon account debits you automatically, and you send a receipt. So what happens is the store works with Amazon Go app for iOS and Android. When you enter, you tap your phone at the entrance portal to the store. You then take the products you want, drop them in your bag, and as you walk out the store, automatically activates through the RFID sensor leaving the store. And as I say, it's then just billed to you, and then you can actually have a look at it on your phone. Okay.
Right. And this, sorry, I just have to interject right there. And this is not crazy, right? Because I mean, I'm paying almost every bill that I have right now, I'm paying with my watch. Right. So at this point, when I'm, buying a coffee, I'm paying with my watch, so it's crazy. And
there we go.
You're
on the way to, you're on the way to part of that digital enablement, Kevin, very much so. So what's great here is that the technology uses a combination of who took what from the store. So when a shopper takes something off the shelf, it's added to the virtual card. But actually, when it puts it back on the shelf, it comes out of the virtual card. And as they leave, they then just build for the product that they're left with. But it's a combination of artificial intelligence, computer vision, very, very important piece here, data pulled from various sensors across the store, and watching a consumer movement, so that they're only billing them for the product that's actually connected to them leaving the shelf and into their bag. And then cameras are used to track the items and people's movement through the store as well. And for me, this is the most interesting point here. Amazon actually lodged their patents in 2015, Kevin, with their first iteration of technology. So I was well surprised that 6 years ago, this was definitely something that was well entrenched as a collective piece of thinking. But to get started and enable yourself to experience this, you have to have an Amazon account, obviously. You have to have your smartphone, which carries your Amazon app, again, on Android and iOS. You can then scan the app as you enter the store, as I mentioned, through the turnstile. And then you put your phone away and you begin your shopping. You pick up your items, you put them in your basket or in the bags without even needing to scan them. And you just walk out the store. You don't need to check out, and you can replace items at any time. The app has a navigation bar at the bottom for you to have a look at it, and it's broken into 4 screens. It looks at your key, your receipts, your about, and the more, and it's constantly sending you propositions and opportunities for vouchers and all the rest of it. And the key screen brings up the QR codes, and that's the QR code that enables you to enter the store. That's your key into the store. And once you're in there, you walk out and you can then see on your receipt screen every single one of the items that you've purchased after leaving.
Craig, I mean, it's a wonderful concept, but it's I think it's really useful in civilized society, right? Because you go walk into a store and you kind of go, okay, well, I'm just going to stand here and run out of the store. Then there's a whole kind of thing that you got to work through.
So Kevin, to that point, is you can only access the store if you have an active, registered Amazon app on your device.
Yeah.
That QR code is pushed to you when you get to the store. If it doesn't read, if there's any other association with your name and you as an individual, and it locks you out, well, you're not going to get in the store. And the turnstile will only open when you exit, when it's billed to your account already. So there are security mechanisms in place in these environments. So, yes, you may still get unscrupulous folk who may be trying to jump over turnstiles and things like that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because the digitag at the turnstile is reading. And in fact, all of your behavior in the store has been read, and you billing up your receipt as you're taking those things off the shelf. So, if you leave your basket behind and jump out, you're obviously not paying anything. But the minute you exit that store, everything that you had taken off the shelf has been attributed to you, so you're liable for the payment.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like to think that we're living in the time where this kind of stuff is even we're also living in World War III. So But as we near the end of the show, Craig, what are the key takeaways to share with the listeners today?
Yeah, Kevin, so the takeaway points today come from a trusted source and a really great and informative report that I came across. The report's titled 2022 Commerce and Payment Trends, 5 Seismic Trends Shaping the Future of Commerce. It was published by Global Payments, which is an American company that provides payment technologies and services to merchants, issuers, and consumers. And the company processes payments made through credit cards, debit cards, digital and contactless payments. And the report was conducted in June 2021. A great business. It's a good default for me when I'm wanting to find anything in relation to payments. A really good report. So to set the context of the report, the Global Payments researchers spoke to payment experts and surveyed more than 100 global businesses and issuers. The interview surveyed the data. Coming out of that was 5 trends that will significantly impact commerce in 2022. And the insights are then documented in the report, which theoretically has been established to help retailers evaluate their current strategies and to ensure that they are prepared to meet the needs of business and their customers in the years ahead, Kevin. So the 5 key trends that were covered there, I'll give you the headline of them first, is trend 1 is customer expectations are changing and businesses are adapting. Good to hear that they are adapting. Trend 2 is the buy now, pay later becomes big business, as I mentioned earlier. Trend 3 is the acceleration of connected commerce, much like the walkout. Trend 4 is the digitization of business-to-business payments, a really important piece. And trend 5 is attention to data privacy from the end-to-end experience of payments. So whilst we may have touched on certain aspects of these particular topics in previous shows, Kevin, it's definitely the content that we're going to cover today that's really key. So let me quickly take you through each of the points for the takeaway. Trend 1, customer expectations are changing and businesses are adapting. So in 2022, businesses will need to enhance their omnichannel strategy and invest in refining their digital experience to meet their customers' expectations. Take note at every single touch point across their journey, obviously beginning with payments. Bob Korotopasi, who's the president of Global Payments Integrated, notes that people want to have a frictionless commerce experience at the point when they want to transact. And that's not just at the point of sale, it's across the entire experience. Here's some nice stats. 53% of merchants plan to expand their payment methods in 2022, with 60% of those noting that they'll add digital wallets, 60% noting that they'll plan to take QR code payments, and 51% stating that they will start accepting digital invoicing. Very much for B2B space. Trend 2 is the buy now, pay later becomes big business. Paying for purchases with tailored, flexible buy now, pay later plans for even small ticket items is set to become one of the fastest growing payment trends in 2022. BNPL, as it's known in short, is simple. It allows the customer to purchase an item now and pay it off installments over time. And financing with fixed installments was really only assigned to large value, big ticket purchase items in the past, but at least it's now coming back into a small environment. And again, providing financial opportunity for the less privileged to actually get into the buyer's market. BNPL is often referred to as the payment method in the right place at the right time. And again, good stat, just 65% of merchants plan to add buy now, pay later as a payment method in 2022. Trend 3 is the acceleration of connected commerce. We've discussed commerce consumer expectations for convenient, seamless, and personal buying experience across the customer journey previously, Kevin. But for those on the other side of the transaction, namely retailers, the digital-first economy highlights the need for their businesses to connect and improve the entire journey, which means that they need to build more connected digital ecosystems that will help produce better business outcomes for their stores. Integrating all the points of commerce lets businesses create more personalized customer experience across the value chain, from marketing to product selection to payments and shipping. And when building out their commerce tech, retailers should make sure that they can easily integrate their payments, marketing, loyalty, and operations data to provide that consistent customer experience across all markets and channels. Trend 4 is the digitization of business-to-business payments. Here, B2B payments are generally lagged behind B2C, as we know, but in 2022, B2B payments are definitely undergoing a major digital transformation purely to meet the expectations of vendors and suppliers. With the recent move to more remote workforce, businesses that see their employees need to manage their accounts payable, accounts receivable, even the expense reimbursements, employer-initiated spending outside of the physical office need to take cognizance of this. And digitizing these payments is therefore essential, with obviously the key benefits to match. And lastly, trend 5 is the attention to data privacy end to end. Kevin, protecting consumer data and privacy is among the top 3 business is among the top 3 trends businesses say will have greater impact on their business in 2022. So it's critically important not only this year, but for the foreseeable future. And businesses have to remain vigilant in all aspects of data protection, including ensuring data privacy. So whilst much of the attention in recent years has been geared towards reducing fraud in e-commerce environments, businesses must also ensure that they have the correct data privacy policies, procedures, and protections in place, especially as technology and regulatory global rules are changing at such a rapid rate. And the payment providers are leveraging technologies to facilitate data privacy. And here's a really great example. So the payment industry has adopted tokenization to separate personal identifiable information, PII, from other customer data so that businesses can maintain compliance, better protect customers, and leverage the non-personal data for new insights. And yeah, those are the 5 key trends as the key takeaway for today's chat.
Fantastic, Craig. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, just listening to all of it, it's as per usual, just the technology and the way that the world is moving. I'm glad to be part of the reality of all of this, and being alive in history, to be part of this history. It's fascinating from one aspect, but also completely enthralling, because you kind of go, we're part of how this sort of plays out, which is really cool. Great. For next week, what are we going to be just chatting about?
Yeah, Kevin, I think we're due for another conversation on the topic of leadership, and picking up on some of the feedback that you gave me when we had a chat last week. I think it's really important to investigate what role middle management plays in the corporate environment, and what is being done to enhance this middle management layer, if anything at all.
Fantastic. Yes. Exciting. It's something I'm very passionate about. So guys, you can catch the marketing show, Lunchtime Marketing and Leadership, every Thursday on eBiz Radio at 12 o'clock, and all major podcast channels. Craig, thank you for today, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Kevin. Look forward to next week's chat.
Chat later. Cheers.
Ciao, bye.